Hello everyone and welcome to the program. I'm Sheon Wakimbaloye. If you asked any average Nigerian what the major problem of this country is, they may tell you it is corruption. And when President Muhammadu Buhari took office last year and he said he wants to fight corruption hard, it wasn't surprising to many Nigerians just how difficult that task could be. But what everyone was looking out for was the manner in which President Muhammadu Buhari was going to employ in carrying out what has become the central point of this administration's goals. A year into his government, there are diverse opinions on the anti-corruption fight. So when the president visited the United Kingdom, this is what he said.
So far, what has come out, what has been recovered, in whatever currency, from which ministry, from which department, from which individuals. I intend on the 29th to speak on this because all that Nigerians are getting to know is from the newspapers and maybe from radio and television. Because of the number of people arrested that are either EFCC, Director of State Security Services, but we want to make a comprehensive report by the 29th.
A comprehensive report on the 29th of May. That's what the promise the president made. And that statement, more than anything, rose expectations of many Nigerians. And anxiety grew as many people looked forward to the May 29th speech. Well, May 29 came from the almost a half-hour speech of the president. Nothing like looters, not even the details of the looted funds came up in his speech. The federal government came out to say it would release the list last Thursday, and the last Thursday came, but nothing came on that from the federal government's angle. Well, just yesterday, the federal government released to the office of the Minister of Information what he called an interim list of the nation's worth stolen and recoveries made so far. And that is our focus today on the program. Let's get a sense of the figures. Channels Television, Data and Information Analyst Babajide Ogunso joins me on the program now. Many thanks for joining us on the program. It is something that a lot of Nigerians are expecting. How much has the federal government been able to recover? But let's make sense of what has been in the news since yesterday. What is the details, or what are some of the mysteries that are coming out of the report, the interim report they called it, that the federal government released yesterday?
Antonio, there are three categories. There's the cash that the government is still expecting. That's the first category. The second category is the cash that the government has collected. And the third category are assets and cash that have been classified as forfeited interimly. If we look at the cash that the government is still expecting, 114 billion naira. That is how much is still expected from countries such as the United Arab Emirates, the United States of America. Switzerland accounts for 96% of the funds that are still being expected. But Nigerians ask, has the Buhari transparency campaign taken a blow to the chest because it did not release the names of the looters? How many states in Nigeria have a budget that is above 114 billion naira? There are only 16 states. Now, these are the cash currently that is still, that the government has recovered. 143 billion naira has been recovered totally. That is naira, pounds, euros, in all currencies. 143 billion naira. And the government has also recovered some buildings. They've recovered some cars and vehicles as well. And we have all the details that have been released. But more interesting is to look at what 114 billion naira means. That is cash that is still being expected. We have states like Ekiti. We have states like Edo. All the states in the southeast of Nigeria, their budgets are not up to 114 billion naira. In the northern region, we have Katsina, we have Kebbi, we have Zamfara, we have Niger, Nasarawa, Taraba, Gombe. All those states, their budgets aren't up to 114 billion. So that's a lot of money. If we also look at the cash that has been collected, that the government has classified, so these are some of the assets that the government
182 completed buildings forfeited, or I mean, been empowered, well, in the possession of the federal government. The vehicles to 25, farmlands 22, maritime vessels 55 of then plot of lands, uncompleted buildings, all of them making 5 of them.
Exactly. But what you will see from here is most of those funds have gone into property and vehicles. Now, if we look at the cash that currently has been classified as interim forfeitures, the cumulative of that in Naira is 3.2 trillion Naira. And you will ask...
And Nigeria's current budget is in 6 trillion. That's about half of Nigeria's budget.
That's about half of the budget. And you then wonder, how come we have so much assets that have been frozen? Amounts frozen in the bank, 2.5 trillion Naira. And to get a perspective of why the assets that have been forfeited are so huge, it's extremely difficult for you to move cash out of the country for 3 major reasons. The first is account transfers. Because of the watchdog on terrorism funding, it is hard for you to transfer funds arbitrarily out of the country. The second is drugs. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency recently told us that the total funds that they captured in terms of narcotic drugs that were seized, 3.7 billion Naira last year. So it clearly shows that if you want to transfer huge sums of money out of the country through drugs, you will most likely not be successful. The third potential to take money out of the country is through this. Is the aircraft. In the aircraft. Let's look at this. This is an Airbus. It has a cargo capacity of 48,000.
A miniature of an Airbus.
A miniature of an Airbus. So it has a cargo capacity of 48,000 kilograms. What it simply means is, if the cargo is filled to the brim, you can move up to $4.8 billion in cash through the plane, the equivalent of 1.7 trillion Naira shown. Now that gives us perhaps an indication of why the growth of private jets has been high in the country. The plane is the most likely and most effective way to move funds out of the country.
Not through transfers, online transfers, and businesses across the ocean. That
transfers are tough. Transfers are tough because it's easy to monitor. There are a lot of emphasis from international communities on terrorist funding makes transfers across the globe difficult.
This is very possible.
This is very possible.
In cash.
In cash, either through a private plane or through a personal private jet. If we also look at what the government has really talked about, a lot of emphasis has focused on the Office of the National Security Advisor. From all the classification that we released in the next slide from the government, we see that the total funds that have been dedicated or have been alleged by the Office of the National Security Advisor is close to 52 billion Naira.
That's in the last...
Within the last 1 year. So we see the Office of National Security Advisor, funds under interim forfeiture, 42 billion. Funds recovery account in the CBN, 8 billion Naira. VAT even recovered from companies related to the Office of National Security Advisor, close to 530 million Naira. Here's what 51 billion Naira means. Recently, just this week, the Office of the National Deposit Insurance Corporation released a report that says only 2% of Nigerians account for 90% of the deposits. In all, we have a deposit base of 17 trillion Naira. What this means is the funds that have been alleged to the Office of the National Security Advisor is equivalent to the funds in 2 million bank accounts in Nigeria. 2 million bank accounts. Because from that report, it states that 98% of Nigerians, on an average, have 25,000 Naira in their bank account. So this is the equivalent of what 2 million Nigerians have in their bank account.
That is allegedly have come through one office.
That is allegedly to have come through one office. Another way to look at it is, if you look at this number and you look at the population of households or families in the country, we have about 36 million households in the country. What this figure means is that the National Security Advisor could easily have paid 1, 2, and 3. Could have easily paid 1,500 Naira to every family in Nigeria. That's what this means.
That's what this means.
That's what this means. That easily, the Office of the National Security Advisor would easily have paid families in the country 1,500 naira. All families, 36 million families.
I mean, these are probably under investigation. These funds are probably under investigation, but they are forfeited and they have been recovered by the. This is perhaps not all.
This is perhaps not all, but a lot of things are interesting. And particularly when we looked at what had really gone wrong with the Office of the National Security Advisor. We know recently, just yesterday, the great legend, boxer Muhammad Ali, died. He had his first fight in December 1954. You've used the word alleged now, but on the same day when boxing champion Muhammad Ali had his first fight, December 1954, another man was born who is alleged to now be a dollar legend. Same year, December, same month, 1954, his name, Colonel Sambo Dasuki. This was the same month that boxing hero Muhammad Ali had his very first fight. So a lot of things, yes, we say it's alleged, but we see a lot of interesting things happening with what has gone wrong with the Office of the National Security Advisor. It's also interesting to clearly see how the government has categorized it. To make it easy for viewers, that's why we had broken it down to all funds as naira. So we've had the release of euros, we had the release of pounds. But what this shows is to make it easy for viewers to understand that this represents the total sum of euros, pounds, and naira. And we've all combined all of that in a naira figure to clearly see that we have 3.2 trillion naira that is potentially going to be forfeited by various individuals, even though the government did not mention any names.
Interesting perspectives there. And some of the details of it you're getting right now on the program. That's just a breakdown, analysis of what these figures might mean in terms of lives of Nigerians and how much this might interpret into getting in terms of how these funds can be transferred across. It's an issue on the table that we're discussing right now. Why don't you just go ahead and just let us know what your opinions and your thoughts are about this issue. Hashtag looted funds. That is what we're discussing right here on the program, but we'll take a moment. And when we come back, Jide is still in the building, of course, and we get some of the guests to talk about this issue. Stay with us. Because a lot of people are asking, looted funds, yes, but what about the names? That's next on the program. Stay with us.